Hello and welcome to today's webinar with Dave Kovar. Before we begin, I just wanted to take a moment to invite you all to like Champions Way on Facebook at www.facebook.com/championswayfans for future updates on webinars we have with awesome people just like Dave. And without further ado, I will introduce Dave to you. In addition to being an elite martial artist with black belts in 10 martial arts styles, Kyushu Dave Kovar is recognized worldwide as an innovator of best practices for martial arts school operations. He oversees the operation of 8 Kovar Satori Academy schools, and he founded ProMac, the Professional Martial Arts College, a consulting group that coaches over 150 martial arts schools. He was named the 2010 recipient of the Martial Arts Industry Association's 2010 Lifetime Achievement Award. Kyushu Kovar's products and systems are widely acknowledged as industry standards. His relentless pursuit of excellence is at the core of every product from Kovar Systems. So we'll begin today on how you can maximize the fall season with Dave. Dave, go ahead.
Good. Hey, I'm really happy to be on the phone. Thanks for having me. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. And what I want to do is I wanted to start out with some kind of basic overviews that I find really valuable for me. I find as an instructor, we teach what we most need to hear. And I want to kind of start out with kind of 9 principles that I think is a baseline for getting yourself and your school to the next level. Then we're going to follow up with some specific back-to-school strategies you can use in your school. So to begin with, first and foremost, what's really important to acknowledge here, and I'm having a challenge with my slide projector here, so hold on one second. I apologize, guys. I was sharing that. Would you go get Nancy here? So, well, guys, I want to tell you a story while I'm getting this figured out. I apologize for that. And about 2 years ago, I was down in LA, and I got a chance to meet Sensei Benny the Jet Ortiz. And in the process, he's just this really deep guy that knows a lot about martial arts and not more than just fighting. I mean, he really has a good sense of teaching as well. And one of my friends, a gentleman named by the name of Farbors, many of you guys might know, has a school in Woodland Hills, California, was trying to get him to come to his school. And so what he did is he said, okay, I'll consider coming and teaching at your school, but this is what you got to do. You've got to, for the next couple of weeks, when you show up, you've got to, when you put the key in the door, before you actually unlock the door, you've got to take a moment and just appreciate how lucky you are to teach martial arts for a profession. And if you can do that, then what will happen is that, and then when you walk in your school for the first time, you got to make sure that you are able to walk around with the same new eyes you did when you first got to that location. I don't know about you, but I have this amazing school. Our headquarters school is almost 14,000 square feet, and it's a building that my brother and I own. And I'll come at the beginning of the day, and I'll walk through, and I won't even pay attention to how cool the school is. So what I've learned to do is I've learned to when I first get to the school, I take that advice from Sensei Benny. I walk in and I try to wander through the school with the same kind of new eyes that I had when I first got into business. And what this does, it makes my whole day work better. Okay, so I want to talk to you about, start out with 9 steps to get your school to the next level. And first off, acknowledge and accept where you currently are. And basically what does that mean is that, wherever your school is right now, you can blame things on the economy, or you can blame things on, if they're not going as well, on that you lost an instructor or some other issue, but the bottom line is you are where you are, and it's important for us to kind of acknowledge wherever you are, there's only going forward, okay? So that's kind of the beginning point. And another thing that's really important to understand is that a lot of times people expect things to be easy, and the reality is very few things are easy, and running a martial arts school isn't easy. And sometimes when we read magazines and we hear about somebody that enrolled all these people off a mass intro, and man, you're thinking, man, am I doing something wrong? It's not that easy for me. Well, the bottom line is it's work for everyone, and once we understand that, it makes the whole process a little bit easier. So once again, first step, acknowledge and accept where you currently are. Now, step number 2 is believe that you can make it better. Let me explain what I mean by that. Is that years ago, I had a student, her name was Terry Poxon, and after training with me for about 10 years, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I watched her body slowly deteriorate, and as it did, her mind became sharper, and she became more optimistic, and in the process, one day, a few years after her diagnosis, she was in the corner after class, kind of really having a hard time, and she worked out really hard, and she was having a hard time moving. I walked over to her and I said, Terry, can you do anything to make it better? And I'll never forget what she said. She said, I know I can make it better because I can make it worse. And I think about that every day. It had a real profound effect on me. And you apply it to your business. Sometimes we wonder, can my business get any better? Well, here's the question. Can you make it worse? And if the answer is yes, then it tells you that you can make it better. So I think starting out, it's really important that you cultivate the belief that your best years are in front of you still. And I'll tell you what, it's real easy, especially if some of you guys have been on the line for a long time, have been teaching for a long time, some of you guys on the line, to kind of go back in the day and talk about back in the day, how great it was. Yeah, well, the bottom line is it's still an excellent time to be in the martial arts business. What I see is the difference. I've been doing this since 1978. This is all I've really ever done. What I see that's different now, there's still plenty of people that want our product. It's just we have to work a little harder to find them. But it's still a great time for those that are willing to work hard. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, create a vision and visit it often. And what do I mean by that? I think it's sometimes, man, we get burned out because we lose sight of where we're going. So if you don't have a really clear mission statement, a real clear statement, not one that you borrowed from a few different sources and you kind of threw together, something that really speaks to you, then you ought to consider it, something that can help guide you. And it's important to understand that there's 3 types of motivation. There's desperation, inspiration, and purpose. We've all been motivated by desperation when, man, we things aren't going right, or we're late on the rent and we work really hard till we get the rent caught up, and then we maybe kind of relax a little bit, or maybe not you personally, but maybe you have a friend that's that way. And then there's another type, motivation, where you're inspired. And the thing about desperation and inspiration, there's generally tend to be temporary. However, purpose is one of those long-term things that really can have an effect over. So make sure that you have a real clear purpose of where you want your school to go. And I think what's important is that I find it really valuable to remember that what we do really, obviously we all want to have a successful school and make a good living for our family, but at the end of the day, it's important for us to understand that we are not selling a used car or some worthless trinkets. What we do has massive value for our community. And think about it. I mean, what else does what martial arts does? If you think about challenges that kids face, obesity, bullying, poor role models, low confidence, low discipline, you name it, the list goes on and on. We address every need. So I think that there's nothing more valuable than what we do. And same with adults. The list is the same for adults, and maybe add stress on there, right? And we address that. Every one of you guys has had a student that has expressed how, man, after the workout I feel so good, and rough day at the office, the best thing I can do is train at the school. So I think it's important for us to remember that and because what that does, the human mind is easily influenced by anything spoken with conviction. And when you really can feel, the impact that you're having, and you express that, the people around you kind of pick up on it as well, and it really helps your school grow. All right, step number 4, pretty basic, obviously, right? Manage your time wisely. But I'm amazed how many of us, the thing that I hear about more than anything else is, man, tell me how to get new members. The reality is we all, I'm going to share some things that you can do this time of year to get new members, but we all really need to focus on other areas as well, like staff development and retention of students. And so, but the question I hear is tell me how to get new members. Well, what most people don't do is they don't really budget the time to generate new members. So the question I have for you guys is, how many of you guys actually have a time slotted every day or at least every week where you are really focusing your efforts on either strategizing future new members or actually executing, meeting the businesses in your neighborhood or calling up inactive students? All those kind of things can have a massive effect. All right, so I'm going to give you some real quick time management tips. Okay, and what I would strongly encourage you to do, a lot of people major in minor things, meaning they spend time doing things that aren't that important. And there's a difference between being efficient and being effective. And efficient is doing something that might be mundane, but you're really good at it, right? Effective is doing the right thing. And I think the first thing that I'd be wise to do is write out all the different things that you do during the day, and then break them down into must do, should do, nice to do categories. And then make sure that you do the must do's, the things that you must do first. And then the should do's and nice to do's follow up. And then second thing is actually budget time in your day, whatever amount you like. If your school is near capacity, then you may not find the need to spend as much time on recruiting new members. However, if that's an area that's important to you, you ought to budget an hour or 2 a day really to focus on that area. Okay, and have other things kind of step behind that. Step number 5, take purposeful action. Obviously, that seems basic, but here's the deal. It's important to remember that a lot of people prepare and plan and plan and prepare, but they don't actually take action. And sometimes, man, maybe you don't feel motivated. One of the things that I remember my father telling me, and that is that motivation follows action. You don't get motivated. At least that's been my experience. You don't get motivated. You take action, and once you take action, the motivation follows. Now, think about it as far as your training goes, or your fitness, or your diet. It's really hard to get started with a new diet or a new training methodology or something like that. However, if you've been doing it for a while, it's pretty easy to maintain it. So that the most important thing you can do is to kind of get that ball rolling, right? And so we have a phrase we borrowed from Modernetics. It's action TNT, which stands for action today, not tomorrow. All right, step number six, stay the course. And what the heck does that mean? So, so often, yes, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, but you have to take that second and a third and that fourth step, and sometimes it's challenging. And I'm a very mediocre baseball player. I played baseball when I was a kid for 3 or 4 years, but I promise you, I could go up against the world's best pitchers, and I could get a hit on them. Now, how? Because as long as I was able to keep swinging, I couldn't get a hit in 3 strikes, but it might take me 300, but eventually I could get a hit. Well, one of the things that's important to do is understand is in our business, man, we don't have 3 strikes. We can keep swinging. There's a great quote, maybe you've heard it, to fall 7 times, rise 8, life starts from here. And I think it's a reminder. And you guys have all experienced this. You tell your friends, man, they're having a hard time. You remind them, hey, man, you're going to get through this. Keep trying. Well, the same thing applies to your school. And I've noticed where, maybe I'm trying to change the momentum of my school or the energy or maybe I'm trying to generate new members. It takes a while to kind of get the ball rolling. And maybe you're doing a follow-up with a public school you're trying to get involved in. And sometimes it's just that extra phone call. I'm reminded by one student that years ago, her name was Gina, and Gina ended up training with us for 10 years, but she actually missed her first 6 or 7 appointments. And I probably personally would have quit calling her after 2 or 3, but one of our guys, Ken Ruby, kept calling and calling and calling, and eventually she came up, ended up enrolling, and like I said, training with us for a decade. And so stay the course means, man, just every day. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway. And I'm reminded about really the stay the course has to do with self-discipline. And self-discipline is merely doing what you know you should do when you don't feel like it. And, so it's natural sometimes to not want to feel like promoting your school or not want to feel like teaching classes. That's okay. That's natural. Just do it anyway. And I'll tell you what, that's really saved me through some hard times. And when you don't feel like showing up, show up anyway. Stay the course. Okay, number 7. Adjust when necessary. Let me give you an example. We had a great 2013 as a company, and we had a net new that was large. Our schools grew pretty much across the board. All of our locations grew. And so we set some aggressive goals for 2014. There was a challenge, and that was that we started the year out, January 2014, we lost more students, quite a few more students than we started. And we're still not quite sure exactly what happened, but we weren't expecting that. So all of a sudden, it's February 1st, and our goals for the year are all of a sudden become almost unrealistic because of how many students we lost that first month. So we could have continued to leave that as our goal, but we decided, you know what, that's going to be unrealistic. We're going to recalibrate. Let's adjust. So we adjusted our end-of-year goals. We based on the first month standing, and so that's helped us now to believe in the goal that we set and take aggressive action to make that happen. So really important. Some people keep doing something just because they've done it this long, and it's important that we don't do that. Number 8 is value your relationships above all. And what does that mean? It's better to have friends than enemies. And let me give you an example. A few weeks back, I was dropping off a box at the post office, or my daughter was, I should say, and I pulled the truck up next to the post office, and she got out, and she used 2 hands, and she was walking in, and I saw this guy coming out, and he was about 10 or 15 feet from the door, and he turned around, and he saw Melissa, my daughter, trying to open the door, and he went over, out of his way, walked back out, and smiled at her and opened the door and said, "Have a great day," and went in. Well, he gets a little closer, and I realize it's one of my black belts. By the way, he does not know my daughter. And I rolled down my window. I said, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Well, here's my point on this. So he didn't do that because it was my daughter. He did it because, man, he goes out of his way to value his relationships. And it was a reminder to me how important it is to kind of, not just with your students, but in general, if we make it a point to be someone that hopefully people, when they think of us, they think of someone that's contributed, not taken away. Final step, and that is to take great care of yourself. I'm amazed by how many really smart people there's a disconnect to how they treat their body and the level of success in their school, and I think they're directly related. Bottom line is that I think, eating right, exercising, training, they're personal for us martial arts schools, but they're also part of our professional goal. The line is very blurred. If you take time out of your day to work out, you shouldn't feel guilty about that, because that's, as martial artists, professional martial artists, that's part of what we do, is we lead by example. And so sometimes I think we put ourselves on the back burner. And I think it's important that, if you need to be the very best for your students, your family, and the world needs you at your best, and it kind of starts by taking care of yourself. Okay, I want to switch gears, and I want to go to some specific fall guidelines, okay? And this is my 36th fall coming up doing this business. And so it's interesting to see how the trends and what's consistent and what is different over the years. But one thing that I think is really important for everybody to understand is that we are programmed since kindergarten to think of summertime, June, July, August, or give or take, as vacation. And, that happened from kindergarten through 12th grade for most of us. And because of that, that's kind of a lifelong kind of pattern for us. I don't know about you, but summer comes, I kind of think differently. I kind of go into a different mode, and so do maybe you, and certainly your staff, and certainly your student body. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it is what it is. So I think what's important right now is that you make a mental shift. You and your team, you make a mental shift from summer to fall. I would recommend getting together with your team and having some dinner or some staff meeting where you just share with everybody how their summer was, what were the high points, and what you all do, and then, okay, it's time to turn it on. Fall is upon us, and you guys know this can be the best time for our business. If you're a retailer, it's the holiday season. For professional martial arts instructors, this is it. And September, October are the months. But it's not going to happen organically. My experience is maybe 20, 30 years ago, you had this back-to-school rush without doing anything. But anymore, you can still have that back-to-school rush. But you've got to really do your share to make it happen. So once again, try to make sure that you and your team make that mental shift. Vacation is over. It's time to step it up. And I know everybody's school year starts differently. I'm on the East Coast right now, and I know school doesn't start until the day after Labor Day. In California, school starts today in most schools. So we're there. All right, so what does that mean exactly? Some general guidelines. So for starting out with fall cleaning. And what is it? Right now, you should take some time to, get that can of paint out and wander around and touch up any spots you have. Make sure that the school is looking its best. Replace that old gear. Just give it that once over, because you're going to have a couple things. Hopefully, you're going to have this influx of new members coming in that are seeing your place for the first time. And you're also going to have some people that have maybe been a bit flaky over the summer. And it wouldn't be nice when they came in if they go, wow, this place is looking good, right? So that's one thing. Number two, as you can see, it says be retail ready. What does that mean, be retail ready? Well, the bottom line is back to school is a great time of year to offer maybe some new T-shirts. You're going to hopefully people have outgrown their uniforms, all those kind of things. So I'll tell you what, it sure is nice, as to have things in stock when people want to buy them. So take a second, check out your retail display. If you haven't changed it, if you haven't cleaned it up lately, that's something I'd strongly encourage you to do. Number next is this is a really important time to review all your basic procedures that you do in your school. All right, so this is I don't know when the last time that you really practiced how to answer the phone. It sounds so basic, and if you've been in business for a long time, it's so easy to kind of you put that on the back shelf and not practice because you answer the phone steady. But what's really important to understand is that if you don't zero base, if you don't stick to basics, your phone presentation will deviate from how you want it, and pretty soon it's different. A few weeks back, we were doing a ring practice and staff meeting, and I've got a very mature staff of seasoned professionals who've been doing this a long time, and they're very good. And we were doing a little game of ring, and one of our senior guys, a guy named Paul Duarte, had said, "I'll do ring. I'll do this. Call me." So we did a practice, inquiry call. And what was, and he's got this great tonality, and he has really rapport. He builds rapport really well. But we went through this call, and he forgot to ask the student's name. He forgot to tell them where we're located. There's a few basic things he forgot. Why? Because he hadn't practiced for a while. So even if you've done the script and you know it, pull your script out and review it in zero base. Make sure that you haven't deviated too much from what's important. Same thing, making sure that you practice. Everybody knows how if someone comes into your school, how do you present yourself? The bottom line is this, is that we have to work really hard to generate inquiries. So we can't take them for granted. And so your procedures should be on purpose. When somebody comes in, there should be a plan. Remember, someone visiting your school for the first time sizes up your school very quickly. Yes, I really like this place, or it's okay, I might shop around, based on those first few seconds or minutes. So, the clearer we can present ourselves, the better. And so DNS calls, this is a great time to do DNS calls. If you haven't, all those students that have been maybe inconsistent over the summer, one of the things that you want to do is you want to be relentless in getting them back in. Let's imagine that you have a student that's returning from vacation today, and hopefully you know this kind of thing, because when people went on vacation, you find that information out. If not, you might want to do that you have a vacation list next summer so you're prepared. But let's say you knew the Jones family spent 2 weeks in Hawaii and they're coming back and they're landing today. Imagine if when they got back, you were there with a text or a postcard or a phone saying, hey, man, I'm so glad to have you back. Don't forget, class is next week. I'd love to see you so we can get you all caught up. Well, why that's important is because a lot of times what happens, somebody will come back after a couple of weeks vacation, and they're going to get back to the martial arts school. They just, they're going to kind of let them settle in a little bit. And then a week goes by, and another week goes by, and all of a sudden, they've lost that habit of coming to the class. So I'd strongly encourage you to be relentless in your pursuit of your vacationing students and get them back in. Next thing that's really important, if you haven't done this recently, is to be doing reactivation calls. And that is, you simply print out a list of all your students, from Abigail Adams to Bob Bigler to Kathy Carruthers, all the way down the list, and then of inactive. And you don't have to call everyone. If you've never done this before, start with people you have great rapport with, and just pick up the phone and say, hey, Bob, how you doing? It's been a long time. If you find out he moved to Boston and he's going to college there, you're probably not going to ask him if he wants to come in next week for class. But a lot of times, you guys have all bumped into old students that have been meaning to come back. A lot of times people are a phone call away from getting involved. And so something to think about. Next, if you do Black Belt Club, this is a great time to really refine your Black Belt Club talks with your team to make sure you're doing in the proper way. You might want to sit down with your team and for yourself and make sure that your class plan for classes is really tight. I'm amazed by how many people just wing classes. They just kind of show up and they step on the floor and think, oh, what am I going to teach today? And they kind of go out there. And I got to be honest with you. I've been teaching martial arts a really long time. I believe that I can go into a school and I can wing a class and it can be pretty good. I think so. But I'll tell you what, when I actually have a class plan, when I prepared for the class, it's always better. Even my bow-in is better because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, I got this great class. This is going to be a great day. And so everything I do about that class is better. So many of us, you think about a football team, both teams on Sunday want to win. But often the team that wins is the one that practiced the hardest during the week, right? And so imagine if you're the team and you showed up and you wanted to win that game really badly, but you didn't practice all week. Well, so you want to teach a great class, but you didn't prepare for the class. So, man, have a class plan. You might deviate from it, but at least have a class plan. All right, it says the 8 steps to a progress check here. I want to go through this really fast. If you have a pencil, you might want to write this down. This is really powerful. And basically what we try to do with our students is we try with every one of our students, and in a perfect world, we do it a couple times a year. We try to go through this 8-step process, and it's great for retention, and it's great for new members. And if you do this one procedure, it's going to dramatically help your student body, help the growth of your school. So step number 1, imagine that I have a few moments. It might be impromptu, or I might have schedule an appointment with a student. So I take Mr. Jones and his son Bobby, and I say, hey, Mr. Jones, can I talk to you and Bobby for a minute? I bring him in. I don't have to do it in the office. I can do it anywhere. But the first thing I'm going to do is I just want to say, hey, I want to thank you for being a part of the school. So that's step number 1. I know there's a lot of things that you can do in your time and your money, and I appreciate you being a part of the school. Okay, step number 2. Is you ask them, what do you like best about the school, and try to engage both the parent and the child if you have both in the audience. Obviously, if it's an adult student, you're just talking to the adult. And what you're trying to do, this is really an important question because you're trying to get them to be thinking in terms of programming them to be looking for the good in your school, so to speak. And the third question is, how can we improve? That's the third step. And by the way, a lot of times you won't get anything. You'll oh, no, everything's good. Just keep doing what you're doing. But if you do hear something like, oh, that 6 o'clock class is really busy, or my son doesn't like to spar, and maybe, you could watch who he pairs off to. Any question that you have, understand that is something they've already thought about, and if they were going to quit, that might be a reason. So it allows you to be able to really hear somebody's needs and be able to address them. Okay, now that's step number 3. Step number 4 is what you're going to do is you're going to talk about when they first started. And so you're going to take them down. Think of Charles Dickens in A Christmas Carol and the Scrooge. And Scrooge goes to Christmas past, present, future. Well, to run them back to when they first started. Mr. Jones, you remember when your son first started, how shy he was? Because a lot of times they're going to forget the progress they made. And so it's up to us to remind them. So you talk about where they were and then where they are. And there's progress made between where they were and where they are, that says there's going to be progress going forward. So the next question, next thing is you talk about the future, where they're going. Okay, so you talk about the future, you reset that goal to black belt if you haven't already. You remind them, hey, it's going to be challenging. Hey, your child's going to want to quit, or hey, you're going to want to quit at some time. That's natural. You work through it. You'll always be glad you did. And step number 7 is you bluntly, straightforward, ask them for a referral. By the way, don't do this unless they're a raving fan, unless they're really happy with your program. But if they are, you ask them just straight up for a referral. And you never apologize for growing your business. So a lot of times people will, man, they'll hem and haw. Well, gee, you don't know anybody that you might be able to refer to my school. No, man, you're just straight up with it. And then the final one, we just added this recently, is ask them for a review. You might say, hey, I see you're on Facebook a lot. You mind posting something nice about the school? And so if you do those 8 steps and you do those on a regular basis, think about this. Realistically, do you think you might be able to save a student and a half a month from quitting based on, first off, getting to reset their goals to long term and also hearing their challenges early so you can fix them? I think that's pretty conservative. Do you think you could generate 1.5 new members a month by asking 1 or 2 students a day for referral? That's not being unrealistic. Well, that's 3 a month. That's 36 new members a year. If your retention is good, that means in a year from now you have 30 more members than you did a year ago with just that one thing. So I'd strongly encourage you to consider that 8-step progress check. All right, moving on, some specific things for this time of year for you to consider doing if you haven't already is I'd strongly encourage you to consider possibly hosting an end of summer party of some sort if you haven't. Once again, it's a ritual that can kind of draw students in that haven't been in for a while to make sure they go to this party with the school. And all you need is that vacationing student is to come in one time and, get reacclimated with the school to keep them training. That's been my experience, right? Another thing you might do is you might have a makeup camp of sorts. So someone's been out for a while. Imagine if you locked off Saturday afternoon or Friday morning or whatever works for you for people just to come in and get caught up on their curriculum. I'd already mentioned this, doing reactivation calls, okay, a really important thing to be doing this time of year, and contacting those students returning from vacations. And so once you've done that, now I want to stress now the message to parents on the importance of training in martial arts. And explain what I mean by that. I don't know about you, but I've had parents that they're coming along, they're training okay, and then school starts, and all of a sudden the homework is more intense than they expected. Maybe they transfer from grade school to junior high, and there's this whole level of expectations. And what happens, sometimes martial arts can end up taking a back seat. And so what we try to do is early on is just really stress to the parents on a regular basis how martial arts really is going to help them in school. And how do you do that? And one of the things is that we have a series of handouts that we present, about, back to school for good grades. Parents, these are some things you can do to make sure your child does well at school, and helping them to the importance of scheduling when homework is and having them get enough rest, etc. We want to be viewed by our student body and by the parents of our student body as a resource for a good school year, not as a distraction from a good school year. Then secondly, the next thing would be to message that to your students during the school year. So if you haven't already, we're starting right now to talk about the 3 rules of concentration: focus your eyes, focus your mind, focus your body. Talk to the students about what it takes to become a good student at school. And one of the things we will emphasize is how, hey, you really want to start your homework at the beginning of the year with a bang, doing it really well, pay attention really well. If you can do great the first month of school, the rest of the year is going to be a lot easier. And you all know from experience, if you're behind a month, the first month of school, you didn't do well, it's hard to catch up. Next point here is do classroom triage. What is that? I would strongly encourage you to run through your list right now from all your student body, and I would strongly encourage you to run through that list and pick out names of people that you think are still training, but you think are on their way out the door. They're on the fence. And usually it's due to a spotty attendance or a change in attitude. And once you've made a list, come up with 10 people. I challenge you to go down and find 10 people you think that might be on the verge of quitting. And once you've got those 10 people, come up with a game plan. Okay, what can you do? And you talk about it with your team. Okay, Bobby Smith's on the list. What can we do to keep Bobby Smith? And just by the action of spending a few minutes talking about the student, I promise it will make a difference in their retention, because you'll come up with something. You're not going to save every one, but you'll save several. And one of the things that I've done along this line is I find it very valuable to go through my inactive list, students that have quit, and analyze, okay, if there was one thing that I could have done to keep this student, what could it have been? And a lot of times there's lessons that you can learn. It's sometimes in hindsight it's pretty obvious. Well, that keeps you, that then you can apply those lessons to future students. All right, here's some other specific guidelines. If you haven't yet, we've had amazing success with doing things with our schools. And one of the things that we do is we do a lot of school talks and a lot of assemblies. And I know a lot of people will say, man, it's really hard to get into my school district and they don't allow it. We deal with the same thing. And with schools, it's a matter of you always have to kind of reapply yourself, because principals are changing, PTA presidents are changing. So you got to keep that contact list fresh. So one of the things I'd strongly encourage you to do is it's real easy. I believe you just go to education.com, and what'll pop up is a list of schools in your area. And for us, we target grade schools more than junior highs or high schools. And target schools in your area, and then see what you can do to find out what the principal's names and who the PTA president is. And just so you can get familiar with that. And then prepare your fundraiser strategy. And what is that exactly? Most of you guys are familiar with it. This is something that we've been doing in our schools for 20 years. I'm pretty confident, maybe it sounds like a lack of humility, that actually my brother Tim came up with this idea in the early 90s. Maybe someone else came up with the idea, but I know we had been doing it. We kind of came up with it organically. And it's been the single best source of new junior students for us, period, in the last 20 years. A couple of our schools are really good at this, a couple of our locations, and one of them is in 6 schools 2 or 3 times a year, another one's in 8 2 or 3 times a year. And basically what that is that what our fundraiser strategy is we'll reach out to a school, and it's usually one we have a relationship with. And by the way, when we do a school talk or an assembly, we do not push our business at all. We very much soft sell. We go there to bring value, is what happens. And so basically, I think that's important for a long-term strategy, is that if you go in and you try to promote your school too soon, you're going to have some issues. They're going to say, oh, I see why he's got us there. I see what's going on. So real important that you give value, and then the follow-up is then you promote your school very subtly in other ways. And the way we do it, once again, is a fundraiser flyer. We will do a 5 weeks for $75 where the school passes out these flyers. The students then make their check out to whatever the fundraiser is going to be. Let's say it's going to be the PTA. They don't make it out to our school, and they come to our school. They make our beginner classes for 5 weeks, and we also provide a uniform. Now, in return, what our motivation is, what we will tell the PTA president or the principal is, hey, we know that a percentage of these students are going to continue on afterwards, and that's how our business benefits. But the bottom line is we're happy to help. We want to do this, and we, like I said, we've had amazing success with this through the years. And you don't want to start contacting too soon, because if you start the first week of school, they are slammed with other things, and so give them the kind of we found it best if you wait 3 or 4 weeks after school begins before you really apply yourself. One other thing I'd strongly encourage you to do, and that is join our organization, Martial Artists Against Bullying. You can go to donewithbullying.com. donewithbullying.com, and what we've done is we put together, it's a free website with access to all this great information that we put together on anti-bullying strategies, not just what to do if you're being bullied, but a concept we call buddying, why you wouldn't want to be a bully, and what to do if you see bullying going on. We did it a couple different ways. We put together a bunch of seminar formats, but also broke it into small huddle discussions you can do every day in your classroom. And we've had great success with it. And if you go there and you add your school to the list right now, there's over 500 schools that are actually on the international website. And as we grow, as this movement grows, there's going to be people that are going to see what's going on. They're going to want to go to the Martial Arts Against Bullying site, a school near them, and that could be you. So I strongly encourage you to go to donewithbullying.com and join on. All right, we're going to take questions in a minute, but I wanted to make a couple comments. Now is the time. What does that mean? This is if you've been kind of a little relaxed this summer, not working super hard, this time is gone. And my experience is that sometimes we get the impression that you don't have to work that hard for success. I don't really know anybody personally that doesn't work really hard that is successful. And the joke for me is that I try to only work half days. It's the first half or the second half, right? The first 12 hours of the second 12. It takes time to be good at this. You got to be prepared to work your butt off. And if you do that, if you just, decide, okay, man, this is the season, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to proactively do as much as I can to make my school rock. Great things will happen in your location. It's kind of like the universe sees that you're working hard and it rewards you in return. And I want to just, you see our Kovar systems, and you see the kovarsystems.com. We have a bunch of products to help schools get to the next level, all the way down from Instructor's Toolbox, which is kind of an entry-level program that's targeted towards having great classes with drills and skills and teaching tips, and then all the way to our ProMac program, which is, I'm a bit biased, but I think an amazing program where we coach schools to get to the next level. And we have this resource library that's off the hook good. And if you have any questions about it, you can go to kovarsystems.com, or you can reach out to Lisa Cox or Eric Maish about a program. And anybody that calls and mentions this call can have the second month of any of our products at no charge. And by the way, all our products are monthly. After 2 or 3 months, if you don't like it, you're off the hook. But our retention is great. So at this time, I'd like to open the calls up to any questions that any of you guys might have that I might help. It can be general or it can be specific to this time of year. So thank you for listening, and I am ready to take some questions.
Thanks so much, Dave. Before we get to question and answer, I just wanted to remind everyone, in case there's anything you missed, that I will be sending out the recording and they'll be posting the slides on SlideShare. So stay tuned. That email will come out early next week or later this week. Also, if this Maximizing Your Fall Season was helpful to you, we have another webinar on Tuesday with Master Paul Garcia on planning your back-to-school marketing blitz. Again, you can find that information on our Facebook page, facebook.com/championswayfans, if you'd like to register. It's another awesome speaker that you don't want to miss. And for anyone there that's not currently with Champions Way, I wanted to let you know that Champions Way has been serving the martial arts industry since 1998 with over 5,000 clients. We've been helping them streamline and grow their schools, everything from school management, software, billing, and marketing with 24-hour support. We are offering a money-back guarantee for those of you who are interested or frustrated with your current provider. So if you're interested, please give us a call at 1-877-774-5425 or email us at marketing@championsway.com. And if there are any other questions about today's webinar or anything else, please feel free to send us an email, marketing@championsway.com. So without any further ado, we'll get to the questions. The first question we have is from Tom Westcott. The website you mentioned with the list of schools, could you please repeat that, Dave?
Absolutely. First off, I want to just say, if you guys are free next Tuesday, Paul Garcia is an awesome guy, runs a really sharp school, so you ought to be on that call. For martial arts against bullying, the web address is donewithbullying.com. donwithbullying, donewithbullying.com.
Awesome. Kirsten Newman said she thinks you skipped number 6. Could we go back to that?
Yeah, sure. I got you. Let me scroll back. Number 6, stay the course. Those are the. Let me go to the 9. There's the 9 right there. Acknowledge and accept. Believe that you can make it better. Create a vision. Manage your time wisely. Take purposeful action. Stay the course. Adjust when necessary. Value your relationships and take great care of yourself. There you go.
Cool. Are there any? It looks like we don't have any other questions right now. So we actually have a couple. Easy. We have a couple that just came in. Okay.
Okay, great.
Rich Grogren, great to hear your voice, sir. I truly couldn't be happier with ProMac. Those of you that are on the fence, do it. Thank you again. Thanks, Rich.
That's an unsolicited plug, but thank you, Master Grogan. I appreciate that.
We had a request to review Step 8.
Step 8, yep. And as you can tell, I got my slides mixed up. And here, let's take it right from there. Value your relationships above all. Basically meaning, even like when a student is, we find that not everybody's going to enroll in our school, but if they don't enroll, we want them leaving with a great feeling about our school anyway. So I think it's really important that there's a great quote, you can judge a person's character by the way they treat the people least important to them. And so, that sums it up as best I can say is go out of your way to it's kind of, I guess it's the golden rule. Do unto others is what we're really talking about.
Thanks, Dave. Could you also go over step 2? We had a request as well.
Yes, believe you can make it better. And what does that mean? At the end of the day, you have to cultivate a belief that you're the best years of your school in front of you, not behind you. So it's so often to talk about back in the day stories. Oh, back in the day, I had this many students, or back in the day. Well, the reality is that back in the day probably wasn't as good as we remember. It's just that the time serves to kind of warp our memory of our past. And I think you've got to, whatever happened in the past, happened in the past, good or bad. Right now, you've just got to really get that vision really clear and believe in your gut. Cultivate that belief that your best years are in front of you. I've had I love my profession. I've had obviously ups and downs along the way. I've had a great run, but I sincerely believe the best years of our school, our business are in front of us. I feel like I'm just learning, just kind of starting to learn how to run a martial arts school. And I also believe that my best years as a martial artist are in front of me. I still, maybe my body moves a little different than it did. There's some of the stuff I don't do as well or differently, but I still, there's so much to learn. And I think that's an important aspect of getting to the next level, is not spending a lot of time in the past.
Totally. A couple of requests to go over the 8 steps of the progress check.
Yes. Okay, so here we go. Step number 1 is thank them. Step number 2 is ask them what they like about the program. Step number 3 is ask them what you can do better. Step number 4 is talk about their past. Take that, basically you're going to discuss when they first started. Take them down memory lane. Step number 5 is talk about where they currently are in the present. So step 4 is past, step 5 is present, step 6 is future. Talk about where they're going. And it's really important that you don't just lecture, but you solicit response. You get them to give you feedback. It's much more powerful if they talk than you listen. Step number 7 is you ask them for a referral. And step number 8 is you ask them for a review.
Awesome. A question we have is, would you recommend a head instructor stepping off the mat to perform a quick 8-step progress check?
That's a tricky one. Anybody is better than no one, right? However, the person that has the best rapport with the student is the best person to do it. So, when do you do it? I've timed these before. You can do this in 3 minutes. Now, you might need more time, right? But one of the things that you can do is if you can do it during warm-up, at the beginning of class, at the end of class. But if you have that luxury, obviously classroom is always the most important thing. You never want to step off the floor if your class is going to suffer much because of it. But if things are covered, I think it's a great time to do it. Imagine if your instructor decided he was going to do 1 or 2 a day. That's all we're talking about doing. If you do one, let's say you do 1 or 2 a day. Let's say you do 2 a day. That's 10 a week. That's 40 in a month. Right? And so, if you have a school of 200 members, it's going to take you 5 months. It's done. And so that would be my recommendation.
Thanks, Dave. The last question I think we're going to take here is, how would you tackle the area where very few people use the internet?
Where very few people use the internet? You know what? I think it's people. Honestly, I think people are there's certainly internet. There can do so much, search engine optimization. I mean, look at all the things you do for your clients to help them using the internet. Amazing what you guys do, right? I mean, lots of stuff. However, I think some people substitute that for belly-to-belly interaction, which will always be my first priority when it comes to generating new members. I don't think there's any better way to generate new members than to ask existing students for referrals. And I'm not talking about putting sending an email out to everybody or posting something on the wall or getting a newsletter. I'm talking about walking up to a raving fan and asking them point blank, I love having you as a student. I'd love to have other people just like you. Do you have any friends that could benefit from it? There's nothing. If you did that once every day or twice every day, you would see, like I said, you're going to generate a couple new members at least every month just from that one thing. And then other things is you ought to visit every business in your community, and don't try to get them to put flyers. You can put flyers in, or ad cards or rack cards. That's fine. But one of the things I recommend is walk into the pizza shop around the corner from your school and say, "Hey, how you doing? I run the martial arts school around the corner. We have a couple hundred families coming into our school every week. Do you have any flyers that I can put in my business, that on my table, that I can give to my students?" What are they going to do? They're going to jump up and down just like you would if someone came into your place and asked for flyers. And then if they give you some flyers, you say, "Oh, by the way, how many employees do you have?" 12? Oh, great. Here's 12 gas passes for a month at our school. And that would be a great place to start. It's very easy to do. And then as you build rapport, you might say, oh, by the way, do you mind me putting some flyers? Can you put some flyers out to your people? But most people don't spend the time to do that. And you want every business in your area to know that you're there. And that's something you can do when people aren't looking at the internet.
Okay, and so this is our very last question. Thanks so much, Dave. If a student enrolls after the 5-week special that you offer for students, do you give more back to the PTA for every enrollment?
We do not, and I know some people do, but that's kind of out of their control. And to me, I don't think it's necessary. We will have, if we have 10 students enroll off this, which is very uncommon on the 5-week fast, we're ready. They're getting $750, and let me tell you, that beats the 10% they're getting on the cookie dough drive. You know what I'm saying? It's like my experience is they couldn't be happier with that. And like I don't bonus students for I know some people, if they bring a referral and that referral enrolls, they get more of an incentive. We don't do that because we kind of feel like it's, the most we can do is, we're really happy to have them bring their friends to the school. It's up to us to do the job from there. But that's just a priority. I don't know that it's right or wrong. It's just the way our school runs. So the long answer is no.
Thanks, Dave. And thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone that's attended today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email marketing@championsway.com. I will be sending out a recording of today's webinar and posting the slides on SlideShare. And if you, as well, we have Dave's contact information on the screen again, so feel free to contact him directly. Again, a big thanks. Really appreciate your time, Dave, and everyone for attending today.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. My pleasure. If anybody needs anything, please reach out. Don't hesitate to call. We'll be happy to talk. Take care. Bye-bye.